Perfect. Well, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon to those who are not in the California. Super thrilled to have you here. As Gal mentioned, my name is Kalina Bryant. I'm the Chief Evangelist here at Base, and we have a lot of goodies for you today. It's a packed agenda. We are going to be walking through the customer marketing in 2024 playbook. We have a great lineup. We have Gal that's going to be giving you an overview on so many different things in regards to customer marketing. We have Claire, we have Jenna, we have Antu, and we have Jean. Today, these individuals will be going into detail on insights into developing a compelling business case, securing C-level buy-in. Gina will also go into detail about cross-sell campaigns and strategies. Claire will go into details about upsell and expansion campaigns. Antu will be leveraging customer advocacy for success. Jean will be highlighting how to drive retention and with customer lifecycle. And also, if we have time, I will go into detail on executive engagement and how to build your customer advisory board. For today's session, we will have it be very interactive. Due to time, if you do have questions, I'll be monitoring the questions per person. And then towards the end, we'll try to make sure that we have another session around 10 minutes to answer any additional questions you might have. But if you see anything interesting when one of the guest speakers are speaking, feel free to just drop that question in the chat, and I'll be sure to make sure that we address that. Without further ado, I am going to pass it over to Jenna, who is going to be highlighting cross-sell campaigns and strategies.
I go first before Jenna.
Oh, my bad. Sorry about that, Gal. I will pass it over to you.
Okay, so good morning again, everyone. So super excited to have this workshop and this session. The idea for us, just so you know, Kalina already went through the outline, but we'll start with high level, just explaining a little bit what customer marketing is in the business case. I think we have two audiences here. So when we talk about that, we have an audience that is practitioner, experienced people. They've been doing customer marketing like all these amazing people on the panel. And thank you so much for joining us. Antu, Gina, Jean. So there are people here who understand customer marketing well. But we also have a lot of people who are new to customer marketing or not even in the role of customer marketing. We've had very good registration, but we've seen titles like head of marketing, product marketing, which is close, but not exactly, and so on and so forth. So sometimes I'll go a little bit, generalistic for people who maybe are less familiar with the domain. Sometimes I'll go deeper. Just keep that in mind. With that, I want to kick us off. So what I'm going to talk about today a little bit is the main objective, or the bottom line will be, how can you tell the story of customer marketing, and how can you create a business case and create an executive buy-in for it in your company. If you're already in the role, that means, maybe doing more, getting more resources, getting more acknowledgement. If you're not in the role, if you're head of marketing, head of product marketing, head of corporate marketing, and so on, and you want to create a team, how do you do that? So we'll start with just high level. What is customer marketing, customer-led growth, lifecycle marketing, and so on? Why is it important at all? How to do it? That's where actually I'll let the experts talk. So that's where I'm going to skip this one and let others kind of dive into all that. I'm just going to talk about the how-to for the business case, how to measure it, and so on. So let's dive in. Like I said, I'm kind of keeping in my head two personas, the practitioners and all the rest. And it's a workshop, so hopefully you get to do some work. Take notes, ask questions. Hopefully, have some home assignments. I know that I'm going to give you one. And let's start. Okay, so I want to start just with maybe all of us kind of leveling the playing field here. What you can see here is really what's happening in the SaaS market in the last 10 years. Why is this important? Bottom line is that there's way more competition today for all companies, okay? Much more than there was 10 years ago. I assume you all know it. I assume you all feel it. It means that switching from one vendor to another is pretty easy today, way more than it was 10 years ago. And when you think about that, one of the questions would be, okay, so is there a better way to create programmatic retention, adoption, more than what we've been doing today? And then the second one here, this also influences customer acquisition costs, because when you have a lot of vendor competing on the same terms and competing in the same field, Google and Facebook are not going to let you make cheap money, so ads go up, and that impacts as well. So it's more expensive to acquire, to get new customers. It's more hard to retain existing customers than it was 5 years ago and 10 years ago. Those are facts. And then what the question is, again, can we get more efficient acquisition? And the answer is yes. This is kind of where when I think of explaining customer marketing at the base of it, and Gartner has done a great job in outlining what it is, but really customer marketing is all your post-sale marketing. Now you can decide, what do I apply my post-sale marketing on? So we talk about more expensive acquisition. Do I leverage my customers to acquire, to help me get new customers with referrals? When somebody comes in with a reference call, reviews that people see and come into your website, customer stories, videos that get awareness to your brand, social sharing, all of those use cases, all of those activities fall under advocacy, under other activities. They are all customer marketing. That's your leveraging your own customers to do marketing for you or with you and helping you do acquisition and get new customers. But it doesn't end there, because when you're marketing to your existing customers, and that's the use cases that we're actually going to dive into much more in this workshop, because I think they're newer in a way. You also, when you work with, for those of you who have worked with partners, there's kind of a terminology that says to and through. When you work with a partner, you want to market to a partner and through a partner. In a way, customers are partners in many ways, and the same notion applies. You want to market to your customers, so have them use more of your product, adopt better, and through them, have them tell your story. And I think that kind of maybe helps outline what customer marketing is and how you want to approach it. So going back to Gartner's so that is a bit of the what is customer marketing and why is it important. We talk about the need for better retention and adoption by customers. So if you take them through a journey of adoption, and Gene will talk maybe a little bit about that, but you'll be able to kind of see that it impacts better retention. And if you have better retention, of course, we know that that's a key metric for companies. It also leverages other things, like we said, for acquisition. So this research by Gartner kind of says, when you think of customer marketing, these are the different activities that they do, the responsibilities, the roles and responsibilities of customer marketing teams. Now, of course, not all customer marketing teams have all these roles. It really differs by companies, but generally speaking, when we think of the umbrella of customer marketing, and I'll show some examples later of how it's structured, we think of upsell, cross-sell campaigns, and we'll dive into those a bit, both Gina and Claire. We think about voice of customer programs, right? So reference programs, feedback, voice of customer, and so on. We think about adoption campaigns, education campaigns, advocacy programs, of course, and more, and so on. And some people kind of, when they see this for the first time, they say, but hey, isn't all that customer success? And the answer to that is, it is on a relationship level or on a joint KPI level. It isn't on a scale programmatic level. So same that way that marketing does campaigns and scale and programmatic for sales and creates funnels for sales, customer marketing creates scale, campaigns, funnels, programmatic for post-sales, for the life cycle. So that's a little bit of the explanation there for those who are more new to this domain. But what I do want to emphasize is that for those who are practitioners in this space, that a lot has been changing and has changed in the last 2 years, whether it's because of the economy, also I think maturity in the field, a lot of reasons. I won't dive into that now, but what we've seen is a couple of things. So number one, priorities have shifted. We have companies that 2 years ago focused only on advocacy, and now they're focused way more on upsell, cross-sell, expansion, right? Just, why? Because for your company, priorities have shifted, right? Companies are now focused on dollar retention, so things like retention, adoption, and so on. They're also focused on efficiency. But this means that when these priorities have shifted for your company, it also means that they shifted to you, to the practitioners, for you. And what that means really is that we start seeing more programs. So again, people taking on upsell, cross-sell, expansion, which they haven't done in the past, adoption marketing, retention marketing. The teams change. So do they report to the same person, or maybe they moved? Hopefully they become a standalone team and they report to a VP of customer marketing. There's about 70, 80 of those. the speed things have to come out is different. I think more companies today have less tolerance for like 5 years plans, right? And you know, things that take 3 years. You plan for a year, but you need to execute in months and quarters. Nobody will wait till the end of the year. That's the bottom line. So when you think about your programs and your activities, think about, you know, quarterly, monthly reporting and so on. And you know, it's not that fun to say it, but we've seen that as well. It also impacts job security. Like people in this domain have lost their jobs, unfortunately. And many times, you know, and this is my own opinion, I don't have data to back it up, of course, but many times I think that one of the reasons that people in this domain lost their job is because somebody that made the decision didn't really understand what they do, or didn't really understand how significant is what they do. Okay, they knew that, yeah, they do advocacy, get customer stories. Well, you know, we won't have an advocacy program this year in 2023, or we won't get, you know, 20 customer stories in 2023. So what? But I think when the part of what we all need to adopt to is this new world where we need to think metrics and elaborate and explain our role in numeric terms. So I think that also leads, all these changes lead to a shift from very narrow roles, like I take care of customer stories, or I take care of references, to a little more holistic roles. I look at lifecycle, I look at community, I look at advocacy, I look at references, I look at upsell and so on. And managing multiple programs. We meet more and more people in this domain that manage more than one program. And at the end of the day, the most important thing is, you know, what's changed is that everybody needs to talk the revenue talk. Everybody needs to show how they impact lifetime value, LTV, how they kind of hopefully influence revenue, how they measure it, what we call attribution, and look at new KPIs. So not just KPIs of, hey, I have so-and-so advocates, or I have so-and-so engagement, but also I've influenced so-and-so revenue, and this is how I can show it and prove it. Sorry. So basically with that, I think, you know, the way that we kind of think about it is CLG, customer-led growth. These are the 4 elements that I think consist of, you know, a CLG motion. First of all, a CLG motion is to the entire customer base. So think about your ecosystem of customers. You have people using your product. Sometimes they're not in CRM. You have people in your community. Sometimes they're not in CRM. They're not contacts. You have people participating in your events and so on. So your ecosystem of customers is your entire customer base, and you need to kind of pull them from all those touch points, whether you eventually have them all in CRM or not, different question, but that's the first thing. So a CLG motion looks as marketing approaching the entire gamut of customers. C-level and decision makers, that's one type of approach. The power users who are in the product, that might be a PLG or another type of approach. And then, you know, the entire user base and customer base. Then the second part of it is the experience. So how do we think through, and this is where marketing shines better than many other departments, about the holistic experience. How do we think of journeys? How do we think of taking the customer through a process where they became a customer? Now we want to give them value. We want to enroll them into programs. We want to help them with education. People will call that adoption or onboarding. We want to help them with networking. You can call that community. We want to help them with engagement. So, I mean, there are different vehicles and tools to do it, but creating a single kind of holistic approach to it. Then there's infrastructure. Everybody today has to be data-driven. AI is just making it even more so, you know, relevant. Everybody has to show attribution. So we have to have customer marketing infrastructure to help us track it. And we can show, hey, here's how we impacted retention. Here's how we impacted upsell. Here's how we impacted new business, and so on. And then thinking about those use cases. So how do we talk this multi-use case language of influencing adoption, upsell, cross-sell, and retention, community engagement, advocacy, and so on. These are some of the metrics that we've seen, and in this case, these are customers, so we can kind of show and share these metrics here, but measuring, HubSpot measures retention through engagement and, you know, comparison, and you do cohort analysis. You compare customers that are touched by different programs versus the ones that are not. Radware checks ACV growth through upsell, cross-sell, expansion campaigns, engagement. Again, checking the customers you touch through all these programs versus the ones you don't. And Alteryx has looked at things like, you know, the impact on new business, how reference calls help us, you know, move deals not only faster and close better, but also make them bigger, and so on. But I want to kind of move on and talk about There's one more reason why, I mean, you should start thinking this way, and that's because your boss is thinking this way. So we actually had a CMO dinner yesterday, and we talked about this, where basically this is fresh, out of the oven from Forrester's research. I think November 27. So, I mean, and Ross Graber from Forrester kind of says, metrics covering the post-sale customer lifecycle are now prominent. More than half, so 53% of the metrics featured on CMO dashboards describe performance after the initial sale. So not acquisition, not leads, not clicks, not conversion, not what we in classic marketing would call MQLs, SQLs, things like that, but the post-sale metrics. So if your CMO has shifted her focus or his focus to 53% to be on the life cycle, and if you're reporting to marketing, that means that the marketing department is starting to shift towards 50% post-life cycle, and that's why it's important for you to start thinking that way as well. Basically, I want to share here how more mature programs look like, and then how you can build the business case and get the buy-in, and with that, I'll shift. So these are some examples that were shared by Kevin Lau, both in Adobe and in F5, but now, and you can see how a mature program looks like. So maybe, this is like where we want to go. So in a mature customer marketing program, you'll have a couple of department or a couple of, ownerships by one umbrella, right? So adoption and retention would be one pillar, and then advocacy another pillar, and community another pillar, or here it's like voice of customer programs is a pillar, advocacy, retention, marketing, and customer communication. So, and different companies structure it in different ways. There's a lot of examples, but that's a holistic goal. That's where you want to get. You don't get there in a quarter, you don't get there in a year, but many companies have gotten there in a span of 2 to 3 years. And we see this more and more today. So this is where kind of the end game, if you will. And these are the different programs. So how do you do that? How do you get one of the biggest problems is getting that buy-in, getting people in the company to understand that. So kind of want to take you through a 3-step process, and we're happy to take you through it and help with it. So first of all, define your strategy. The first thing that you want to do to get executive buy-in and to grow your team and to grow your programs is just understand, okay, my company in 2024, this is their metrics. They're focusing on retention, they're focusing on onboarding or adoption, whatever, upsell, cross-sell. What are the 5 things that my CEO, CRO, company is talking about is OKRs or key goals for 2024? Great. Out of those 5, what can I influence with customers? For example, if one of the KPIs for the company is to, and this never is a KPI, but I'll say it just as an example, is to improve the product so everybody loves it and NPS is 10, or the experience, okay? So of course, you can influence that because you can get feedback from the customers, voice of customer programs on how to improve and how to make them happier. And then you can run those kind of, surveys or NPS to see that, it's 10. But, if the metric is retention, how do we influence retention? There's a lot of data and research that lifecycle engagement impacts retention. Just think about yourselves, or all of us as humans. If we buy something and then they don't talk to us for a whole year, next year when they call us, we say, who's calling? What are you talking about? So in B2B is a bit different, but I mean, still, if I buy something and I don't have any engagement with the company, with the brand, any value from them, maybe next year I move to it's easier for me next year to move to something else. So that's, if you need to think, okay, retention is key. How do I engage customers across the lifecycle? How do I help customers realize value and see it, and so on? So that's what you need to think. What are the 2-3 things that I take from company and to myself? Then how do I build the business case for that? So per program, retention, how do I show that if I do these activities and have these resources, I get, this growth or this saving or whatever. Same thing and then you want to pressure test the use case, and I'll show a use case in a minute. You want to pressure test the use case. So basically saying, okay, I'm going to socialize it just with 2 or 3 people and see if it makes sense to them. Maybe if your manager is like, a director, I'm going to socialize with my director, but not necessarily with the VP yet. I want to kind of pressure test it and see what other people think. Because then my next step would be actually showing it to the VP or showing it to the CMO or showing it to the CRO and so on. So you want to kind of do a process where you take company goals, take 2 or 3 of those and say how your customer programs, if you get more resources, if you get more people, if you get more tools, if you get more budget, whatever it is, you can influence those company goals, create a business plan for it, a very simplified one, but a business plan for it, and then share with others and see what they say. First, share it with people near to you, and then with the actual people who make the decision. Then the last, piece is creating a short deck. Excel is great because it helps you understand your business and helps you, or spreadsheet helps you kind of share the value, but you really want to have a 5, 6, slides thing that they can socialize as well. So in there, you want to just say, these are programs I chose. These are why they're important for the company and how I can influence the outcomes. Here's my calculation. Here's my spreadsheet. Here's the timeline and the budget I need to make it happen and how I'm going to measure myself. And then, start socializing it with different leaders. And I think with that, like we have these metrics, which are the classic advocacy metrics, and this for one of our customers, who you can see, how many people do I have in my advocacy program and how many things were done and so on, which are great, but they don't say anything about revenue influence, right? And this is another example metrics. I just take one program, referrals, and I say, hey, here's an example, 362 referrals, 200 plus qualified, 150 plus closed won, over X million dollars input. Now, this is hindsight, but I can do the same calculation forward looking. How do you do that? And with that, I need to end quickly. So first of all, here's 3 different programs. We talked about referral. Let's go to that because it's an easy one. So I can say, hey, we're doing referrals today, or maybe some customers are giving us referrals today. But if we go for an automation, then, number one, first of all, they're saving, right? Every referral is way cheaper than customer acquisition cost. And you can check what your customer acquisition cost and what the referral cost is, way cheaper. For example, customer acquisition cost is $300. Your marketing, your demand gen company your demand gen team will know the number. Referrals, let's say you give them $50 or whatever, or something in the program. So it's just cheaper. But the more important thing is, hey, today we get like 10 referrals, or whatever, 20 referrals a quarter, and 10 of those become SQLs and 4 of them become closed won. But if we use automation and scale it and roll out a program with basically we're expecting to get 40 and then, qualified and 16 won. That's 12x new customers brought from referrals. And let's say your ACV is 50K, do the math. That's the revenue you can show. And then you kind of talk about the cost. Very simple, very simple. Don't go much deeper than that, but that helps people understand how it can work. Same thing with references. Hey, everybody does references. Salespeople talk to each other. We don't know what's happening there. But if we make it a program, if we make it structured, if we maybe scale it with automation and whatnot, we will have a bigger pool. We will have a bigger pool. We can support more deals with reference calls faster. If we do that, we probably will close more deals, maybe 8 more a year. Times 50K, hey, that's $400,000 that we can get new because we're creating a program. So that's how you think about creating a business case. And again, we're very happy to help companies with doing that. I know I don't have time, so I'll skip a lot of this, but keep it. One tip I have here is that keep it simple and keep it kind of something that everybody can agree. So I'll give you an example. If let's take referral programs. If you really do have 10 coming in without any program and 4 closed won without any program, it's very fair to say, I think I can 4x that with a program, but I wouldn't say I can 10x that, right? Don't exaggerate. Say numbers that everybody say, okay, maybe okay. If you don't feel good with that, say 2x. It doesn't matter, but you have to say numbers that everybody in the company will say, okay, it makes sense. These numbers are real because they accumulate. Each line item by itself might have, okay, but it's only $100,000 you're adding, or only $400,000 you're adding. But when you do 4 or 5 programs and you're adding them, suddenly, okay, it's $2-3 million that you're adding, or more than that. Okay. So with that, I've ended my portion. A minute just about Base, for those of you who don't know and are new here. So Base is a customer marketing platform. We've been around for 5 years now. We support both the use cases that are related to advocacy and demand generation, like reviews and referrals and references and all that, but also the lifecycle use cases like adoption and upsell and so on. We kind of have a very unique framework where we help you understand your customer's journey and engage them throughout their lifecycle, engage in many, many ways for many, many use cases, and then help you track the revenue and attribution. And with that, we work on all three layers. So we are inside your CRM platform and helping sellers leverage data and the company sync with data. We have an admin console where you could basically run the different campaigns and manage all your activities. And we have a customer experience. We talked about how do we create value to customers, how we create experience to customers. So we have that as well. But the most important thing, we really focus on making sure that people understand, at the end of the day, how this is influencing revenue. And we're constantly evolving and adding more things around the revenue attribution and measuring that. And with that, I'll end and say thank you very much and shift it to Gina, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks for that, Gaul. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. We'll save some room towards the end. But like Gaul said, Jenna, we're super ready for you. We're excited to see what you have to show us in regards to campaigns.
Thank you. And thank you, Gal, for the perfect tee up for the planning and the reasons why. So hopefully we can jump through some of these super quickly. All right. So today I want to take you guys through a few insights that I have in my almost 20 years of marketing experience, most of that being within customer marketing for how we go about selling more products and services to existing clients. So there's a lot of benefits for doing this. Gal mentioned a whole bunch. For your organization, obviously incremental share of wallet is really important, but also really thinking about that stickiness and the additional measures that were mentioned earlier, as well as that lifetime value. But there are benefits to your customers too. So when you're thinking about a cross-sell, it's not just about you, it is about your customers and how you can help them. So you offer most likely multiple services or products that can really help diversify what it is that they're doing and help their day-to-day processes, as well as help them save some money. So let's talk a little bit more about that. Part of saving money comes from consolidation. Gartner is seeing this happen more and more. So understanding that value prop and that kind of you hear it as an all-in-one solution or just that consolidation and how you could help IT as well as procurement kind of streamline some things that are happening in the business. So a fun stat for you. But let's talk about campaign planning and how we do that for a cross-sell. So I'd like to start with how we create the program. Again, I had the perfect tee off. We generally start with the organizational objectives. I recommend everyone start there. What is it that your org is trying to do? Chances are they have a revenue goal for the year. Chances are they have a sales target for the year, maybe even a improvement in churn goal for the year. And typically your marketing goals will fall out of that. So once you have your marketing goals from your leadership there, then you can start thinking about how a cross-sell campaign can really help that. Once you know how it can help, you'll start diving into your strategies. I recommend choosing some that are tried and true, that you've been doing for a long time in other areas of your business, as well as thinking about some things you might want to test. And then, of course, layering in your tactics and your measurement, which we'll get into more in just a few minutes. So let's talk about, and now that you've outlined it on the page, let's figure out exactly what you're thinking about when it comes to the who, the when, and the with what. So for the who, from an account perspective, oftentimes you can use filters that are in your CRM or your marketing automation platform. We're really trying to figure out exactly who your add-on cross-sell service or product is best suited for, and kind of what it is that they have now that kind of triggers that for you. And then from a persona perspective, right? Like we want to market to accounts, but we also need to talk to the different people that are both within and using your products probably day to day, as well as potentially people that are outside or departments that are outside of the people that use your platform and offering in a day to day. So oftentimes when you're thinking about the persona level, your product marketing team or your marketing insights team will have personas built out for you that have some of these key insights. You as a customer marketer hopefully are talking to customers on a regular basis and can also drop in some insights that will then kind of inform where you go from a messaging perspective. So next on my planning list is building out the buyer journey for what it is that you want to say and how you want to say it. So oftentimes with a cross-sell, it's something new. It's not just a new feature. It's not just buy more. So it kind of goes back to thinking about how it was for new business. So you kind of have to tell them why they have a gap or a need. And the need might be consolidation, like I mentioned earlier, or the gap might be, hey, this is so new and you really need to try it. And here's how it can solve all these problems for you. Once you've kind of layered in some of your messaging points for the different buying stages, whatever your stages may look like, then layer in your proof points, your relevant content that you have, if you're lucky enough to have content already built about what it is that you're trying to cross-sell, and then identify the gaps that you have so you can create some net new content specifically for your targets. This might be promotional content if you're running a price campaign. Next, I consider all of the channels to reach a client. Since they are clients and customers, you know who they are. You know where to find them. This sometimes is said to be easier, but also can be sometimes challenging as a customer marketer. You know, as an organization, that there are a slew of competing priorities as you try to nurture them and get them to adopt what they've already purchased. Trying to get them to buy more may be a little bit of a balance for when you reach them and where. So personally, I try and reach them in the channels that are going to spark the greatest interest without detracting from all of the other great work that your customer marketing program is already doing. And here's some examples of what I think about. So now we've thought about the channels that we want to reach them in. Now we get to go back and think about our tactics that we want to push into market. There's so many different things that you can do, landing pages and white papers and ebooks and webinars, and some of the additional channels also generate content of their own that we've talked about before. This is just a map of how I typically go about identifying when I want to hit in market. This is a slide that I use with my cross-functional partners to get them kind of aligned with me. Oftentimes, as I mentioned before, I do sales enablement as one of my channels to market, client success enablement as one of my channels to market. So those teams have to be ready and able to assist. So as I think about my tactics, I also want to think about what it is that they're doing and how I can engage that as part of their cadence. So measurement, the fun stuff, not the easy stuff, the fun stuff. And so important, as Gal mentioned when we got that wonderful interview, right? So when you're planning for your campaign, it sometimes can be really hard, right, to figure out what it is that you're targeting. And so I look at it in two different buckets. And the first bucket is really around how we want to measure the campaign from a bottom line perspective. So that revenue, the dollars, like what is it that we're bringing back to the organization at large? Oftentimes I encourage my team, and I will myself, go to my cross-functional peers that know the systems for measurement better than I might. I use RevOps, I use my marketing ops team, I use my Marketo experts, I use whoever it is that I get to cross-functionally tap, my analysts also, to kind of set a baseline for me, right? Like it's very hard to measure impact for some of these things unless if you know where you're starting from. Some organizations might already do that, and again, might have a goal for you that you can tack right into pretty easily. Others might not. And so definitely think about what it is that your organization cares about, what that main goal for the year might be, and then again, how you can tap into that and how you should be measuring against that. So some examples listed here. And then the second piece that I go about measuring is my tactics. So I don't leave this out. I think this is a really important piece because we as marketers, and especially customer marketers, need to be messaging in a way that resonates strongly and quickly with our audience, but also in a way that we're able to learn and pivot if that pivot is needed. So as you think about making go-to-market updates and how the channels and the content might need to shift based on what you're learning, A/B testing is great, but also being ready to pivot. So understanding what it is that you're putting into market, how you can measure that, and then being ready to adjust those knobs are important as well. And then customer feedback. So again, I mentioned A/B testing. That of course is super important, but your campaign elements, there's more to it than just A/B testing. So you can run surveys, you can do interviews, you can do, again, the metrics that we looked at from a tactical perspective. You can host in-person, virtual events, and then also make sure you're getting insights from the people that are talking to clients on a day-to-day. So my front lines, as I call them, right? My sales, my CS teams, my product teams, ensuring that they're giving the insights back to the tools that you've developed, not only for them, but also the tools that are going straight to clients that might come back and have questions asked, or additional pieces of insights that a client might be asking a different part of the organization for. And then, of course, if something isn't working, pivot quickly, which is, here we go from an optimization perspective. So again, taking to heart that in-market tracking is so important. There's a slew of indicators that you might find across all of the different elements that we've talked about today. So an example might be if you have a high bounce rate on a landing page, go back to what got them to the landing page. The ad or the email, is what you're promising being delivered at the headline, at the highest level of the content that you're creating? And if it's not, then fix the disconnect. Another way to optimize is to really think about, if you're running a promotion, let's say it's pricing promotion, if you're not seeing the pickup that you need, chances are you're going to want to speed up how you get them through the buying journey. Or maybe you're seeing conversions get stuck somewhere and you want to slow down a part of the buying stage. So being ready to kind of make those turns and adjustments are always important to ensure that your campaign is going to have the best result. Lastly, from an optimization perspective, I always encourage automation whenever possible. So once you kind of know what's working, being able to set those filters and those triggers to add new accounts and new personas into the campaign that you've created. But remember to go back and check on it. The markets change, people change. And so that monthly, quarterly, annually, or weekly, if you have the automation in place to make those adjustments is always important. All right, a couple of examples. I've given you a few examples already in kind of the slides that I've been sharing, but I just wanted to summarize them very quickly for you guys here. This is a campaign slide that I typically use. These are all examples here, but essentially the map that I showed you earlier from a plan on a page perspective, oftentimes I include all of my strategies. I'll have a line for cross-sell, a line for expansions, a line for retention, and so on and so forth. This is my cross-sell campaign rolled up insights that I'm going to take to my sales team, to my CS team, and say, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. Are you on board? Where are my misses? Where are my gaps? What content types am I missing? What gets utilized from your side? Not just what I'm seeing from a marketing metrics perspective. So I tend to use this one. And then when I think about content, as I mentioned, from an enablement perspective, I've included a HubSpot example here for an objection handling guide. I typically will do this for my internal teams, both CS and sales, to really kind of help them. Oftentimes I find that folks are very good at selling one piece of our offering, but not necessarily all of the sub offerings, especially if they're a little newer to our organization. Another example that is seen here is that example I gave earlier in terms of a pivot from a landing page perspective. So seeing there was a big bounce rate, a quick bounce rate, shifting very quickly to do a shorter page where they could get exactly what they needed with a quick hit. And then lastly, my favorite, as I mentioned, metrics. So typically when I'm reporting out, we report out on a monthly basis as well as a quarterly basis and an annual basis, but making sure that I'm tracking not only the tactical level and sharing that out, how I'm seeing things work in market, but also what I'm seeing from a deals and opportunities perspective. So what is it that I'm giving back to that bottom line? What can I attribute as influence to customer marketing? And then a couple of insights. I think sometimes it's helpful for the teams to be able to see what I've learned and how we're pivoting to move forward, again, to ensure that both my sales team and my CS team feel like they are in lockstep with what customer marketing is working on. I need them to be able to be a channel for me. And so I try very hard to make sure that they are along for the ride with me. And that's how I typically drive the best and the most impact from an organizational perspective. And that is my very quick summary of cross-selling campaigns.
Jenna, that is amazing. And you have quite an amount of questions before we pivot to the next speaker. I hope you don't mind if we can go through 3.
Not at all.
Okay, so we have one from Ella that says, curious what specific topics you cover in promo assets and content you created to drive cross-sell as one. Do you want me to go through all 3 or do you want to pause and go through?
Can we do them one at a time?
So let's kick it off with Ella.
Thank you. So yeah, from a promotional perspective, typically I'm trying to create sales content. So on my side, I'm not really allowed to talk about pricing from a marketing perspective. So sales are SDRs, and I don't even know if CS actually is allowed to talk about pricing. So I'm arming my sales team with flyers about what the promotion is, slideware that they can insert right into a presentation that they're using, non-pricing included priceware for my CS team if they're doing a business review. I'm looking at teasing it out in an email. I'm looking at email templates that can come from our key account team or our CS team that can spark a conversation. So specifically on a promotional angle, that's what I'm looking at. From a content overall perspective, I'm really targeting those channels where I can find them and the tactic types for what it is that they need and typically will review.
Perfect. And it looks like we have room for one more question. So how do you handle course corrections when you see a campaign or a tactic isn't achieving as you expected?
Great question. I personally get everyone in a room. So I gather my cross-functional team to quickly go about, here's what I'm seeing. I make sure that I've done my due diligence to pull all my metrics and findings that I can, so that I can inform that campaign team. We have typically a charter that we utilize, and that charter can then be adjusted to say, hey, we think it's a messaging issue. Let's adjust for what that is. And in my cross-functional team, I'll have product marketing with me so they can help with some of the messaging from what they're seeing from a product perspective. And then I'll also have some other customer marketers so that they can say, hey, let's try this type of customer story instead. And then my go-to-market, my new business marketers that can say, I think your subject lines aren't splashy enough. Here's some suggestions for you. And just utilizing my content strategist as well to ensure that we're able to really take a look at how the content is performing in market. And if that's the issue, then either pulling it or quickly pivoting. So it's not a set answer, but I leverage my team primarily. And if I don't have my team or they're not available, I'll use my network.
Thank you, Jenna. And for those of you that have additional questions for her, we will be sending out a survey and also her slides. So don't worry, we'll still get to you. Without further ado, I'd like to pass the baton over to Claire, who's also going to be highlighting upsell and expansion campaigns and how she found success at Zoom.
Perfect. Thank you, Kalina and Gina. I will be sharing my slide here. Okay, perfect. Again, perfect segue. We're going to be talking about mastering upsell and expansion campaigns and how we can unleash the power of customer growth through these kinds of campaigns. Just a quick agenda. My name is Claire. I recently joined Base, and prior to Base, I was at Zoom for 6 years, leading their customer communication team, touching millions of existing and new customers. All right, so today we'll be covering overview, importance, and goals of these kinds of campaigns, the benefit of customer loyalty, how to maximize revenue growth, some practical tips for campaign execution, those KPIs and key metrics, and then just some real life email examples. So I know probably the majority of us know these definitions, but just for setting everyone on the same baseline, I'm going to go over them very quickly. So upselling is moving customers to higher end or paid products, right? So an example of this is perhaps you have a freemium model or a free model and you're trying to convert them and to get them to your paid model, or using an advanced or pro model. And then next we have expansion, which encourages the use of more or additional features. So maybe they're using one product of yours, but we would love for them to use multiple or all. And why is that important, right? Because if they're using one small product and it's a little portion of their day-to-day lives, it's going to be easy for them to replace you, right? But if you're enmeshed and ingrained into what they're doing every day through the course of their day, you're very valuable to them. So it's going to be harder for them to rip and replace you. Like I mentioned earlier, right? There's a lot of competitors. And so we really want to make our product valuable. They can't live without it, right? So now that we understand the definitions, we're going to quickly cover the goals. Things like increasing revenue, right? Aiming to boost sales and revenue from existing customers, enhancing the customer value by providing them more relevant products and services we're increasing their overall value of the product that they're using, and then just improving the customer satisfaction. When done right, upselling, cross-selling, expansion plays can lead to increased customer satisfaction by offering them solutions that meet their needs. All right, we've understood the definitions, and now we're going to go over why is all of this important. So first thing, continued growth and innovation. Our customers, they're continuously growing and innovating to meet a quick-paced, ever-growing market. We also need to show them that we are quick-paced in meeting the ever-growing market, right? So we're meeting them where they are. We're innovating and we're continuing to grow and expand. And we're showing them that with all these new cool features and products that we're offering. And then, like I mentioned before, super important, that deeper integration in this workflow, right? If your product is part of, their day-to-day, it's something that can't live without. So it's going to be harder for them to replace you or, not use your product. So if they're using one of your products and they love it, it's easier to solve a case of why they might need additional. And then just that enhanced user experience. So oftentimes an advanced or pro model gives them more enhanced user experience, right? So if they are free, they may not get things like Premier support or one-to-one CS or the quicker SLA times with their support team. So we are giving them an enhanced version, and then in turn, they're giving us their loyalty. Okay, and then just the benefits of customer loyalty and maximizing revenue growth. So things like repeat business, like Gal mentioned earlier, it's cheaper to keep our customers than to continuously try and go out there and get new ones. Increasing the CLV, the customer lifetime value, which is the spend that customers spend over the course of their time with you. And then things like reduced marketing cost, higher profit margins, and stability in revenue, right? Marketing to our existing customers is generally more cost effective than acquiring new ones. Loyal customers require less persuasion to make purchases, and then in turn reduces churn. And then the last two, customer feedback and insights and brand advocacy. Our customers, our happy customers, right, are our best advocates. They're our best mirrors. They are loyal to us, and we can have those honest conversations about roadmap and gaps and what's missing, and therefore create campaigns and strategies to help bridge those gaps. Now, how do we do it? Some practical tips for execution. So just quickly going over things that have worked well for me in the past. One thing is just building a really detailed framework, right? What happens in month one, what happens on day one, what happens on day 3 in terms of onboarding, and then building that out to like 40 months, right? So that's extremely helpful. Then you can see the bigger picture and see what you're missing and when this upsell campaign will go and how it aligns with other product releases and things that are coming down the line. And then here is just a very quick example. We'll be offering a playbook after this, and I'll have the whole month by month built out, I think, until month 30. So that will be more detailed there, but just some quick examples. Month 5, having an upsell adoption campaign, maybe a competitor campaign with a learn more, buy more landing page. Month 7, having an adoption or expansion campaign where we're promoting how we can use this product in a different capacity, giving real examples of how other customers with their similar verticals are using, having a clear CTA, here's what to click, here are these resources. And then like month 9, a review call, and then adding that upsell play, some personalized use cases again, promoting your add-ons, things like that. And then again, in terms of KPIs, I know is very important. Some quick ones here is just conversion rates of upsell offers, increasing that CLV, the expansion revenue, the revenue increase, and then just those KPIs on our tools, right? So if you're using HubSpot or Tatango or Gainsight, keeping an eye on those. But something that I think is overlooked is working in lockstep, like Jenna mentioned, with those customer facing teams, knowing every beta program that's out there, right? Like just knowing when the next release is, because our CS team, our support team, and our sales team, they are talking with their customers every day. They know where the gaps are and what's needed. So just making sure we're in lockstep with them, and then they have all the arsenal that they needed to talk to customers about what's going on. And then just some examples here. This is like a fake marketing automation company, and I will provide more in the workbook as well. But here's our company name. You're already using it. We have some new features and modules explaining what those features are. And then here's how to explore. And then in this season of the holiday, some upsell techniques for seasonal offers. I like to use the FOMO. What I call the FOMO method is like, here's our greatest offer of the year. Here's a hard date. Take advantage now because you're not going to get a price like this going forward. So just really hitting home that little FOMO aspect. And then finally, something that I'm doing at Base during the season is just like a try and buy offer. Like try it for a couple months, no cost, no risk, no downtime. See if you like it. Here's what we're providing. Try it out. And there's, no downside to that. Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for that, Claire. So we have a lot of questions, but we're just going to do one and then pass it on to Antu. So it looks like we have at Zoom, who were the key internal stakeholder teams you engage with to build out the customer marketing framework and to execute on all the tactics you put into play?
Yeah, this is an interesting one because when I started over 6 years ago, and we were not the Zoom that everyone knows today, right? We were small, under 500 employees. We weren't a household name, and there were not a lot of marketers. There was a head of comms who did PR, there was a brand marketer, and then there was me. And very interesting, I sat under CS because they were the ones who had the budget for me. So from the start, I always was very close and in lockstep with those customer-facing teams, and oftentimes just being their voice and advocate for them because I knew everything that was going on because I sat under them. And when I had the opportunity to move away from that team later on, I didn't want to, right? Because it always served me so well. So the teams that I, on a day-to-day basis, was like head of support, head of product, and all the product marketing managers very closely. We worked very closely, even working in tandem monthly on product newsletters and things like that. So just all those key internal teams, product, support, CS, and we cannot forget about sales. Never want to forget about sales.
Awesome. Thank you for that. And as Claire mentioned, she will be rolling out more tips during the playbook. So stay on the lookout for that next week. And as we move things along, I am super excited to introduce Antu, who's going to be going into a deeper dive on customer advocacy and how it can provide success. And with that, I'll pass it to you.
Thank you, Kalina. Let me share my screen. Perfect. I'm Ann Tubach, the Director of Customer Marketing and Community at Gigamon. I'm super honored to be part of the Customer Marketers Playbook for Success panel. Everyone here is amazing. So honored to be part of this group. I'm going to be exploring a topic that's not only pivotal in today's dynamic business landscape, but it's also essential for success, leveraging customer advocacy. I think in a world where customers are more connected to each other than ever, the power of a customer reference program is a force that can push businesses to the next level. So in the next 10 minutes, we'll kind of dive into the strategic importance of customer advocacies and how organizations can harness this invaluable asset to achieve success. So from building brand loyalty to fostering authentic connections. I don't think people realize the influence of a happy customer extends far beyond a single sales transaction. So we're going to explore key principles, best practices, and tools so you can successfully leverage customer advocacy, not to only thrive next year, but also lead. So by the end of today, I'm hoping that my goal is to leave you inspired and informed, and also armed with actionable insights that can be applied within your own org. I feel like customer advocacy is no longer just a buzzword. It's a strategic imperative that can drive success for you in 2024. So let's get started. So what I wanted to start with from the beginning is, how do you introduce a customer reference program? And this varies from every company. And I think when you first start, and I know that personally, because 2 years ago when I started at Gigamon, we had nothing. So they actually this was one aspect of it, but I had to build the entire customer marketing. But the first thing I tackled was, how am I going to build a customer reference program? And the way I actually stepped back, I was like, what is it? So when you actually define it in simple words, like, it's just an initiative where we're going to ask our customers to share about their experiences and with our products and stuff. Just putting it into that simple form makes it easier for you to go and tackle this on. And this form can be in different variances. It can be a case study on our website. It can be a quote adding to the web page or a press release. It could be a customer video. And I think the one that we're seeing more and more is these written reviews, like Gartner peer site isn't going anywhere. Trust Radius G2. So when you look at it, these are the different ways your customers can give you feedback. And so I think I don't really need to talk about this. I think everyone on this call understands why it's important, but I think it's more critical than ever. The customer journey has already started before they engage with sales. They're already like looking and talking to us, and they don't want to look at data sheets. They don't want to go to your site and just look at what you're putting out and how great you are. They want to see what others are saying about you. They want to engage with other peers. What are they saying? Why did they go with Gigamon, or why did they pick Zoom? They're not actually looking at our site. So I think, as far as I think all of you guys get it, but I think this is the way to go. This is very important in 2024. So now that we've talked about what it is, why it's important, so how are you going to create a program that's going to make a big impact? I think the key is having a strong foundation for a reference program. That is people, systems, process. That's, as simple as that. And the second bullet, I would say, is probably the most important, is buy-in from your key groups. You're going to need sales leadership. You're going to need customers, partners. And the way you do that is, what's the bottom line? I think we all know what C's say. They care about business, closing business. So you want to make sure you align to what matters to them. And the other part is, you want to go ahead and frame out your strategic elements of your program. And that varies depending on your company size. Prior to Gigamon, I was at a much larger company, and our elements were much different than what's important at Gigamon. And I think the last one, which is probably the most important, you want to get this built. You want to do this right. You want to have a single pane of glass. And the way you're going to do this, you need a platform. As much as we love our spreadsheets and we start with this team of one, this is not how you scale a reference program. You need a platform. And of course, Base did not pay me to write this, but I did. You get a platform like Base, or you go with Reference Edge, Upland, whatever you have budget for and what works for you. But this is how you're going to make it easy. You want to make sure that your program, even though when we first start out building and you think, oh, spreadsheet is okay, but you want to think far. You want to make sure this is a scalable program that's going to stay at the company, and you have to get a tool in order to do that. And coming on, this is probably my favorite slide. So now we've talked about what it is, why it's important, how you're going to do it. And I think we've all on this call have talked about how important metrics is. So I've just highlighted some of the ones that I think are important, but this will vary, based on your program. I think accessibility and company awareness. The one thing we don't realize, we talk about selling a program externally, but you have to sell these programs internally. So you got to make sure that all these sales folks know about your program, they use the tool, they adopt it. So that's one way of knowing that this program is going to stick and it's going to be part of the business. And I can't the second point, ease of use. You want to make it easy working with you. You want the process to be easy. Otherwise, when you're working with sales or marketers or customers, they're not going to work with you if it's not easy. If it's too difficult, then they're not going to work with you. So I can actually emphasize as the ease of use on it. And I think the last bullet, which varies from all of you guys, but I've highlighted what I think, how I've gotten buy-in as far as the impact on the business. Of course, at the end of the day, it's all about closing business. So number of deals that are closed using references during the cycle. I think the total dollar value that's influenced by pipeline. Also, just knowing how much your sales references materials used on the sales cycle. A lot of people don't actually measure this, but it's so important. Like we track the number of case studies, the MQL, the closed one, all of that comes with it. And then, of course, I know we had Jenna open it up with upsell and cross sell. So I think we all get it. She dug deep into this. Also just making sure that your program isn't just flat. I know in my last company, one of the things that I had to do was we had a program, it was great, but we wanted to make it global and Excel. So I think you got to continue to actually track all of these. And also what vertical are you guys going after? A lot of companies want to get customers in the healthcare or public sector. So I think providing assets that can references based on the need is going to take you far. These are not everything, but these are the ones that are going to help you build your program. And I guess with that, I talked really fast. I was worried that I was going to go over. I will hopefully have inspired all of you guys to go out there and build your own customer reference program and be comfortable and lead with your company.
Thank you for that, Antu. You were very quick and efficient as you. I would expect nothing less. But we do have one question before we pass it over to Jean. How do you evangelize this with your sales folks and then keep them engaged so they realize the value of it for them?
So this is ongoing, as much as I would say, when I first came on, that was the biggest thing I did was just go on every call as much as you can, create spiffs, make it fun. I think being visible, that's probably the key. And this is something that it's an ongoing thing. You don't stop. I talk to my team, we're 2 years into it. I'm still trying to get in front of sales. So I think just, and I also think it's, the relationship building too. I think you take pride in what you do and you make it always a fun and a positive experience.
I love that. And as you guys know, I always say it, but we do have a playbook coming out next week. And so if you want more from her, don't worry, it's coming. It's coming, I promise. But I know we're crunched on time. So now we're going to pass the baton over to Gene. He is going to be giving us a lot of different jewels around driving retention with customer lifecycle. And with that, I'm going to pass it over to you, Gene. Oh, we can't hear you, my friend.
That probably works better.
Thank you.
I'm going to start off by echoing what Antu said. I'm really privileged and huge thank you to Base. Great partners to work with. And I am grateful to be part of an amazing group of people who understand customer marketing. So with that, going to jump in. I'm going to take a very particular angle on this, looking at the customer life cycle. And then we're actually going to narrow that down as well. Let's jump in. We have been working on customer lifecycle at Malwarebytes for quite some time. Pause for one moment. Back up. I am no longer with Malwarebytes, but I'm going to be talking about this as if I am still there because it's just easier. And also call out, there are two people on this call in the panelists, Kelly Brenneman and Angela Kelleher, who are amazing collaborators and helped me build these programs out. So huge call out to them. And Kelly and Angela, huge appreciation for your collaboration, your friendship, and for being amazing colleagues. So onward we go. At Malwarebytes, we've been working on renewal and retention for a long time. I came to Malwarebytes 7 years ago. There was no customer lifecycle program. We built it from the ground up. Retention has continued to be a problem. Well, it's accelerated over the past year, actually, and we were told our retention rate still sucks. It is below industry average. Gene and team, do something about it now with less resource, and do more with less and do it now, basically. So love a challenge, and we took it on. So let me share that little story with you here. We knew something was wrong, and we needed to identify exactly what was it. What are we trying to fix? There's a lot of water cooler talk. We all deal with a lot of speculation and ideas, but we need to get everybody crystal clear on precisely what is the problem. So that is the starting point for us. And everybody says we have a retention problem. Great. What is it about the retention rate and customers who are churning that we are going to fix? Our starting point was get the data. We are so lucky at Malwarebytes. We have an amazing data sciences team. We also have telemetry on our customers that's outstanding. So we've been monitoring retention rates for a long time. We have amazing data. We just needed to dig into it in different ways to start looking at how are we going to answer the question, what's wrong with our renewal data? Okay, so here's how we did that. I'm going to take you backwards really quickly, and this is 30 seconds. Like Claire pointed out in her work at Zoom, we set up a 4-part customer lifecycle plan. And this is what's in play still at Malwarebytes today. So first off, customer deploys. We need to get them to activate their SaaS product. For us, it's security software. So deploy, and that means a big hug and a kiss. Thank you for buying our product. And here are the tools you need, resources you need for getting your licenses activated. From there, start using it. You bought our product for a very particular reason. There was something about our solution that spoke to you. You got budget and you bought it. We were there to fix a problem. What was it? And so we want to make sure the customer is using those features and get really ingrained with the product. And somebody earlier was saying ingrained. That's really what this is about. Then, if we're doing our job well, we can look for those opportunities to sell additional licenses or buy other products and services. And again, this was part of Claire's talk as well. And this is what customer marketing does, you guys. This is our job. We need to sell more to our existing customer base. Now, if we do our job well, and do all 3 of those things really well, then the customer should be coming up to the renewal saying, well, duh, you saved my butt so many times. You make me look great. I love our partnership. You're great to work with. I understand what you do and what you do for me. Where do I send my check? Okay, that's the goal. At Malwarebytes, we had a little problem, okay, on that last piece. We're being told by the executive team, get this fixed right now. So I'm going to reiterate this in a little bit, but there's 4 key pieces. Understand your scope and scale. How big is the problem? Is it really a problem? Sometimes people are interpreting data strangely, and you just need to understand it, speak the same language. Customer touch points. We built out an amazing customer journey map. 4 questions I always ask, and you guys write these down. There are 4 questions every company needs to understand. Who's touching the customer? At what points? For what purpose? And what does success look like? Okay? Who's touching the customer at what points? For what reason? And how do you measure it? You have to understand those because there's a lot of choreography that happens around a customer. And we all have the problem as customer marketers of customers coming back to us and saying, why am I dealing with 6 people or 16 people at Malwarebytes? Who does what over there? Is anybody actually paying attention to me? Okay. Gotta understand the orchestration and the choreography. And then understand what your dashboards look like and where your data is. And I'm going to just climb up on my soapbox for 1 second because we all fight this battle. No effing silver bullets. Okay. There's no silver bullets anymore. Part of getting your data together is we're going to iterate. Here's where we stand today, and putting my programs and processes and tactics together mean I can iterate. Okay, and you get everybody on that page. Climbing off my soapbox, back on track. So what we did is we understood that there was one problem. Actually, let me restate that. We worked out that there is one huge opportunity. It is foundational. The customer has to deploy first. Big duh statement here. Customer doesn't deploy, they're not going to renew. Caveat, we have some weird customers who do renew with zero deployment. Thank you very much to them. We don't know why you're doing it, but general statement, customers who don't deploy do not renew. Okay. This is the most amazing opportunity at this stage to be able to build the relationship with the customer and get their experience with your brand off to a great start. Here's what we did. Back to the data. What if you could predict a customer's churn 4 months before they renew with 85% accuracy? Wouldn't that be amazing? Well, holy cow, Malwarebytes could. We have over 30 different factors that we've built into our churn model, which we built from the ground up. And we can pay attention to all of those. It's too many factors. We look at the top 3 or maybe 4 factors that influence. And when you do that, we realize that priority number 1 is deployment. It's all about getting the customer off to a great start. If they don't deploy, it's almost impossible to upsell or cross-sell them, get them to engage, get them to be an advocate. They're not going to do any of that unless you get them deployed. So I'm not going to spend any time on here. 3 things that we've worked out. Again, this is dust stuff, but it's great to get this in front of executives and other influencers within the teams. Customers that we retain have a higher deployment. There's the data. Customers who churn have lower deployment. There's the data. And customers with zero deployment, guess what? They churn at 70%. Now, what do you do with that? Great. Just focus on the left-hand side of this. You'll have all this and it'll come out in the playbook. So I can talk about each one of these for hours. We're just going to look at the black one here. Deployment success. We retooled our entire customer success team to focus on deployment out of this discovery. Okay, that is their job. White glove treatment. Every single customer is to get deployed. Now we set a couple of goals in there. Number 1, get 1 seat deployed, because if you don't deploy a seat, you're going to 70% chance you're going to walk away from us. But if you can get that, and we have the data on this, if you can get that first seat deployed, there's just about a 50% increase in your likelihood to renew. And it's your beachhead. First seat deployed, oh my gosh, you got somebody's attention, somebody took an action, because it doesn't happen by itself. It's a great starting point. Obvious benefits are getting early time to value for the customer. They just spent a bunch of money on you. Okay, and I mean you literally. So they need to start seeing value from it, and nothing else should happen until the customer is deployed. And at Malwarebytes, we're not completely clean on this yet, but our goal is nothing else happens. There's no upselling, cross-selling. There is no other outreach to the customer. Everybody on deck to get the customer deployed. We throw everything at it. We measure 3 key areas. Obviously, our deployment rates and our deployment velocity. This is a new thing for us. How quickly are you getting those licenses deployed? It's a huge indicator of how likely you are to renew. Okay. And then zero deployed. If you don't have a single license deployed, alarm bells go off across every team in the company. Okay. The sales teams, success teams, support teams, everybody on deck. And we've got a whole program that goes around that. Which we can talk about and build other playbooks on. But that's where we are currently focused. So I'm going to repeat. In identifying the problem, for us, it was the retention rate. Understand, we had to get everybody, there's a lot of people involved. And a lot of people think they own the customer. We all know in customer marketing, no single person owns it. So you can drive that conversation. And it has to be around what's the scale of the actual problem. Put numbers to it. the touch points, build a basic journey map. It doesn't have to look like this beast we built, but what are all the touch points? Who's touching the customer at what point, for what reason? And what are you measuring? And then the choreography, who's doing what at what point, okay, which goes back to number 2. And then make sure you've got data at every single step of the way. So with that, I sincerely thank you. I love this stuff, you guys. Customer marketing is where it's going to be. We're in a good place. There are too many CMOs out there right now who don't get it. We are where the future's at. So thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Gene. We do have quite an amount of questions for you. Gal, what do you think? I think that we should go into questions so people can have enough time to ask the speakers, and then we follow up. And I promise we'll go into executive programming on our next workshop. That's also feedback for us. If you like what you see and you want to see more from us and you have a different topic, pop that inside the Slack and we will make it happen for you. With that, I want to get into some questions. So Gene, you're on the spotlight, okay?
Okay.
How did you get buy-in to get your ES system teams on board, to prioritize getting the systems in place, to get the data you need to have this visibility, to make data-driven decisions?
I don't, one of the things I'm really good at, and what you all need to get really good at, if you aren't, I kind of suspect you really are, is to be an amazing evangelist for the customer. Okay. Every conversation, every meeting you go to, one of my team members used to say, you guys talk like the customer is in the room. Okay. Stop talking about them. Stop saying things like you're talking, like you're saying. Pretend that the customer is in the room. Ask them questions. So you become an amazing evangelist, and then you take, and you cannot do this without data. It goes back to what everybody was saying and what Gal started out with. Nobody will listen to you unless you understand the data, position where we are today, and where we can get to. And marketing has changed so much in customer marketing. You've got to tie it to the revenue. You've got to tie it to success metrics that are tied to the bottom line for the company. It's no longer about making the customer feel good or look good, or the company or the brand. It is bottom line. So it's becoming a good evangelist, get your data in order. This was uncomfortable for me. You need to be able to talk the numbers as well as the sales teams do. You've got to know them, not at the depth that they do necessarily in the drilling down, but you better know what your company's goals are. What are your renewal rates? What are the company's goals for your renewal rates, retention rates, your NRR, your GRR, etc. What's important to the company? You need to talk that language.
That's spot on. That actually leads to a more enticing question, which I think ties into the numbers. How would you recommend we help CMOs, in quotes, get why customer marketing is where it's at? Close quote.
Take it to the first slide, or one of the slides that Gal introduced at the beginning. At the bottom of that slide was customer success enablement, and that was 49%. The big focus that CMOs have today is on the top one, 76%, I think, want upsell and cross-sell metrics. That's marketing. Okay, that's what we do day in and day out. We know that. But when it comes to advocacy and customer marketing, Jenna laid it out beautifully in one of her slides. There are so many tactics that we have to pay attention to and engage our customers with. You guys, I keep saying you need to. I hope that's not coming across badly, but you need to be amazing storytellers with your CMOs. You've got to be crisp, explain what the problem is in a synopsis, what the right thing is in a snapshot, and how you and your teams in collaboration with everybody else are going to get them there, and the number. CMOs don't get the touchy, not all CMOs get the touchy, they think we're touchy-feely. We are as crisp and aligned to the numbers as anybody else in the company. You've got to just speak the language. That's how CMOs are going to get it, because we're training them to talk to their CEO. I'd love to talk about this one in a workshop somewhere along the line. I think this is such a big area. And you guys, I'm currently not in a job because, frankly, my CMO didn't get it. And that's our job, is to get CMOs, make them look good, show them the value of what we're doing.
I love that. And Jean, apologies on that. The next one, they're going to be lucky to have you. And I think this is a great transition for you. So we're always grateful for you and all your knowledge. And for any of those out there that is experiencing the same thing, it's an interesting market, right? And we're here to help each other. That's the main reason for this type of workshop. We want to share knowledge. We are a community, and we are people that want to see everyone successful. I'm not going to go on that speech today. I'm actually going to get back to the questions. So we do have another one for you that came up before, and it is focused on reference platforms. So how should we think about showcasing what scaling the technology can do to get budget and to get buy-in for a system?
No, that's a great, yeah, that's a good question. Because I actually had to come in here, and when I first came in, they said your budget's gone, and I was like, so you guys brought me on, and I was like, and I'm supposed to be successful, and I think it's actually a hard question. It's kind of like, I think I started with just getting in front of the right people and saying, we can do this in a spreadsheet, we can go this, but I was like, if we really want to build a customer marketing pillar here, we need a tool that's going to scale. We want to make it easy for sales, because I was like, I can't have salespeople filling out a form when they're nominating. I'm like, these nominations need to come in fast. We don't, because when I literally started, we didn't have a reference program. We started with 0. And I did not realize that when I interviewed here. That's that when they said we were starting it from the ground up, I was like, oh, I thought there was something. So I was like, how do you expect 500 sales reps to go there and fill out a form? Not are we introducing them to go out and ask their customers to be part of a program, but how do we actually make it easy? And I think having that was one big, and then also saying, we want to make it a fun experience for our customers, have rewards. That was a part of the program that I use, is what do the customers get? We're not just going to go to a customer and say, hey, join our program and do XYZ, but what are we doing for them? We had to create like this whole journey for them, saying, oh, welcome to the program. And, and this is what you can do. These are our activities. So I think just going in and selling, I think it was more showing the sales part of it, saying, do you want sales to participate and grow? And we saw the huge difference. I did a dashboard. I still do a dashboard of our growth rate. And that was one of the metrics that I still report on, is how many reps actually are using the tool. And we gave a spiff too when we first started. So there, I think just going and giving metrics, I think that is the key, as much as we don't like, it's an overused word, but that's what gets C-level's attention. And yes, I got my budget back, and we adopted a tool.
I love that. And congratulations. Some people would run off if they say you don't have a budget.
I considered it, but no, I'm kidding.
I think that's where the creative minds, that's why customer marketing is needed the most. We know how to get creative with very little resources.
Yeah.
So commend you on that. I think we have time for about 2 more questions. But Jenna, we have actually one that came up in your presentation. So it showcases, what are the top 3 items you highlight in your dashboards as indicators and to show learnings to the executive teams?
I feel like we've talked about it a lot, but anything that ties directly back to revenue is going to be my first and foremost things that I go to. So if I can showcase specific revenue dollars, either in ACV or ARR, I'm going to be looking at my opportunity creation, whether it's number of influence or number of opportunities that tie directly back. And then, of course, typically for cross-selling, we have a very specific list, or an account list, or a target account list, depending on who you are and how you call it, that we're going after. So I'm looking at conversion of that list, because it's likely that there's going to be cross-sell that happens naturally and organically that you may not be influencing. So really honing in on the impact of what it is that I'm doing. I'll plug that in, if I can get those measurements myself or from my teams. And then secondarily, I will include those tactical measurements that we talked about earlier as they're levers that I use to adjust my campaign. But if I don't have any metrics that go directly to the bottom line, I will call that out in my voice as and who was talking about. I definitely make that case of I can give you better metrics. I can showcase growth in what we're working on if I can measure it. So those are my secondary last resort type of items that I'll share out to my cross-functional teams and my executive teams.
Thank you for that. And before we close out, I know we still have probably plenty of questions, but just want to give you guys a little bit of update as to why we actually did this workshop. So I think I can speak for everyone on this call. We represent BASE because we understand the data. BASE offers customer marketers an opportunity to be able to have those conversations with CMOs and have those conversations with chief revenue officers and actually have a seat at the table. It's a difficult time right now, and next year is probably going to be just as difficult, but I think that you will have a space in your role if you can articulate your value. And at BASE, we're here to help you articulate that value, whether that's designing a dashboard, designing a community. We can get you what you need and make sure that you are set up for success. And to kick that off before the year closes, we will be rolling out the first ever customer marketing playbook. That's going to take all of that content that you see in this workshop here, but also some of the past presentations that we have collaborated with other companies on. So if you like what you see, please let us know. If you want more from us, we love feedback. Feedback makes us better. That's what makes our product thrive, and that ultimately is what's going to make you thrive. And with that, I want to say thank you and pass it to Gal before we close out.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for everybody who stayed all till the end and joined us. We appreciate it. But special thanks to Antu, Jean, Gina, Claire, and Kalina for joining us, for sharing your knowledge, sharing your experience. All people in the industry benefit from this, and we're also going to share it later as a recording. So totally appreciate it. You've given real life examples. You've helped people think about their programs for next year. And I think that's super cool. We've had great questions. So thank you everybody for participating and for sharing, and see you on the other side in 2024. Happy New Year's and Merry Christmas and celebrations. Happy Hanukkah.
Happy Hanukkah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.